Hello everybody who is watching and welcome to the ToniSport Newsfeed. Today I want to talk a little bit about the drivetrain and the importance of having a smooth and absolutely free running drivetrain. We are now switching to the outdoor tracks, and sometimes during practice the track is not super good prepared. It's a little bit dusty, or you have some super small stones on the track, or maybe some rubber from nitro tires and stuff like that. And all these components, they can affect your drivetrain in a really bad way. And a DNF because of a not well built drivetrain is something we all don't want to have. It can be a real advantage as well to have a super free and super light working drivetrain, especially if you run in stock classes where the motor powers are a little bit more limited. And yeah, just take a look at my car. I made some small clips during maintenance, and I will tell you some things you always have to check when you are wrenching on your car and when you are preparing it for the next practice or race. So let's get it started and enjoy the video. First of all, we would take a closer look to the drive shafts. The drive shafts, they are really important for a smooth working drivetrain. So take them apart from time to time. I do it, I would say, every 20 battery packs. Just take them apart, check that the wear on the parts is not too big. When you see too much wear, replace the parts, because it doesn't make any sense to use hardly worn out parts for a longer time. Just use some good grease or some tiny drops of oil when you build your drive shafts, because they will reduce the friction and they will give your drive shafts a longer lifetime. In the same step, you can check that when you put it back together, that it is turning around smooth and free, that there's nothing which is blocking your drive shaft in the way of how it's working. So in the same spot, on the same step, you can check the bearings, check that the bearings are smooth and free, that they are not feeling bad or damaged. You can add a small drop of bearing oil as well at the same point when you are sure that you want to continue with the bearings. If not, you can replace the bearings. Looking on the front double joint drive shafts, it's the same procedure. You can take them apart, you can check that there is not super much play inside the components, and when you take them together again, just use some grease as well to grease the center of the double joint drive shafts. This will increase the lifetime for sure. Then you can check the blades on the drive shafts as well. When they are worn out a lot, just replace them with some fresh ones, because it is important to have fresh blades on the drive shafts, because when the material gets thinner and thinner due to the rubbing on the outdrive, at some point the blade will break during the run, and then you will have a bigger problem. When you mount your drive shafts and you will put them back in the car, always check that you use the clips here to hold the pins in the drive shafts in the same direction, to not use one in the opposite side. And then you have to take care when you mount the drive shafts that you put them on the right side of the car, because you always have to make sure that the drive shafts is turning in this way here, that the edge of the clip here cannot get stuck into the C-hub, because when the drive shaft is turning in this direction here, you will make the risk of a DNF even more big, because these clips, they can clip themselves out when they get in contact with the C-hub, and when they are turning in this direction, the risk is very high for that. So these are the drive shafts. So the next part of the car I want to show you is the section where the spur gear is mounted. The spur gear is always mounted here on the lay shaft, and the lay shaft is ball raised as well. So always check that the ball bearings on the lay shaft and on the spur gear, that they are working perfectly, because a broken bearing inside of the lay shaft is hard to see or hard to find in the first moment, but it will have an effect on your car, and sometimes you can hear that there's something broken, but yeah, as I said before, the ball bearings in the lay shaft, they are not visible so easily. Always check that your spur gear is mounted straight so that it is turning absolutely perfect. And today, most of the spur gears you can buy, they are manufactured in a really perfect way, so that shouldn't be any problem to get some. The most of the cars, they have a little play here in the lay shaft section, which is also no problem until the play doesn't get too much. And this is something you always have to keep in mind. Next one I want to talk about is the belt tension. It is also super important to use a belt tension which is not too loose and not too tight. And you should always keep in mind what class you are running, because when you're running modified, you usually have to choose a stronger belt tension than when you're running stock, because of the bigger motor power and the more torque. Always try to use as less belt tension as possible, but as much as you need. It is easy to find out how much belt tension you need, because you can hear it when you're driving, if the belt is skipping under braking or acceleration or not. And you can feel it, and when you do it for a couple of years, you will get a feeling and you will get used to it. So in this case, it's a modified car. The belts, they are a little bit stronger, and when you run stock or 70.5 or some slower classes, you can go with a more loose belt tension, because then you will have a drivetrain which is going much smoother and more free than in a modified car, for example. When you have checked everything and you have made sure that your bearings are in a good conditions, the drivetrains and the drive shafts, they are cleaned and they are not blocking the car in any way. You have a fresh spur gear with good bearings here in the center section. For the final test, I always remove the pinion gear from the motor, and then you can check that your drivetrain is super free when you turn one wheel. Then you shouldn't feel any resistance. I think this is okay here right now. It maybe will get even better, I think, but I run modified, so the belts are a little bit more tight. And all these things together, they are really important, and you will always feel that the car has a much better performance on the racetrack when you pay attention to detail on your car while you are maintaining the drivetrain. Always check bearings, drive shafts, belt tensions, the spur gear, the center lay shaft, and all these things, and you will not have any trouble out on the racetrack. So it was very easy to see that it is important to care about the drivetrain a lot. And I recommend to do this especially when you are on a race or on a bigger race where you have enough time between the runs. You always have the chance to check that there is no dirt and no debris and no small stones and particles in your drivetrain. Always remove the pinion and check that it's turning free. Check the bearings and use some good bearing oil and all these things. And you can be sure that your car will be fast right out of the gate when you start the next heat. That's the video for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and always care about your drivetrain. And as long as you race with ToniSport, you can get all the little things to keep your car going, and race with ToniSport. You will never race alone. And until the next ToniSport Newsfeed video, keep racing and goodbye.